Frank Bonada here for LowKickMMA. With me today is Matthew the Beast Bonner, who is set to take on Oban Elliot at Cage Warriors 142 in 2 weeks' time. How's it going, Matt?
Yeah, it's going well, thank you. Excited for getting that fight next week. I thought it was going to kind of be fighting November time, so to be getting on before then is, I feel quite lucky.
100%. Yeah, so how did that all come about? I sort of saw Ian Dean posting on Twitter saying that it was you that asked for it and actually like pushed for this fight.
Yeah, like I said, I'd heard a rumor that there was going to be Manchester in September, so I was losing weight for that anyway. And then when Cage Warriors brought out the calendar for the rest of the year, it was November. There was 4 UK shows in November, so I was, thinking, Christ, I'm gonna have to wait for this amount of time now. And then I saw on, I think it was the Facebook, they were looking for a welterweight for a 5-2. Straight away, I realised that was Oban. So I thought, you know what, I'll have a conversation with coach about it and see what happens. And that was Tuesday, and by Tuesday afternoon, the contracts were signed and they're ready to go.
Brilliant. Sort of going into enemy territory, I suppose, in Wales. What sort of like reaction are you anticipating?
I'm anticipating a negative one, that's for sure. I mean, I lived in North Wales for 5 years, but obviously South Wales is, like you say, it's his territory. Apparently, it does bring a lot of fans. Apparently, his fans are quite hostile as well. So, yeah, it's not something I've ever really been concerned about. No, I'm 21 fights in after this fight. I understand that when the cage door closes, it's me, Oban, and the referee, and no one else really plays a part in that fight. So yeah, in terms of a hostile crowd, someone's going to boo, or it doesn't factor too much into the fight, in my opinion.
What's the most sort of hostile environment you've been in over the course of your career, do you think?
I fought in Denmark against Mark Madsen. This was well before next year. Madsen obviously gone on to do extremely well in the UFC, still defeated. And unfortunately, I failed weight for that fight. And there was a few kind of first and only time I've ever missed weight. Long story short, they promised me a bath, to cut weight in, and then not, and then there wasn't a bath, so I had to sauna all the weight off, and I think it ended up being just over a pound over. And I'd said to them, I can't cut any more weight in the sauna. If you stick me in the sauna again, I'm going to go into kidney failure here. This is how extremely dehydrated I was. And then whether it was like a language translation problem, they'd kind of turned. They'd almost said like I'd refused to fight and I'd threatened to go home. And anyone who knows me, knows that's not my style at all. I was very apologetic about it. All I said was, "Listen, I'm not going to be able to drop the weight. I'm going to end up in an hospital bed if you put me back in the sauna." But when kind of the media got involved, and Matt Madsen was a hero in Denmark because he was an Olympic silver medalist at the time, and said they twisted the story around. And when I walked into that arena, it was extremely negative to say the least. It was no, it wasn't a very place to be, to be honest, at all.
I bet.
Time.
Back to Oban. Do you think Oban's the biggest Welsh name the Cage Warriors have on their roster right now?
Yeah, I'd assume so. Obviously, it was Mason Jones probably before he moved up to the UFC. But he's it's funny over because he's 7 fights into his career, but he's a name. People know who he is. He's good on the mic. He's quite witty with what he says and what he does. So that kind of appealed to me. I mean, above everything, I just wanted to fight. That was it. I wanted to keep busy. I didn't want to wait till November like. But having someone like a little bit more that I wanted to be involved in it because he was a bit more of a name in Cage Warriors.
Looking at his actual skill set, what do you take from him, his own skill set, and how do you think you're going to be able to combat
that? I think I see fighters in general that the one of two things, or there's 2 things that makes them a fighter. One is like kind of the athletic side, and the second is the fighting side. I think Oban's a great athlete. He always comes in shape. He always looks shredded. I assume he's reasonably strong, but I don't see that fighting side in him. Whereas if you flip that over to me, I might be less of an athlete, but I'm through and through a fighter. I've been against scary guys. I'm super tough. I'm durable. I've been finished. Never been rocked or dropped or anything like that. And I've got the mental side as well, where I can come through adversity and still be in the fight. So I think his skill set, honestly, is quite average. I don't particularly see anything that he's super strong in. I think he's punches as hard as anybody else in the division does with the 4-ounce gloves. But apart from that, I don't think it brings anything super impressive to the table, to be honest.
This is a bit of a strange question, but do you think of it at all like, well, if you look at it, it's your gym, Next Gen, arguably one of, if not the best gym in sort of England, and then you look at him over at Shaw MMA. I think they probably are the best gym in Wales. Do you look at it at all like a gym versus gym rivalry, like you're both representing?
No, I've never really seen it that way, and I don't really think even Paul Rimmer, the next gen coach, would see it like that. Or even in terms of, I want to fight Rhys McKee. Now, Rhys McKee is Next Generation Ireland, but even with that, Rimmer said, listen, there's no beef with the coaches. They both get on. They both like each other. It just comes down to, obviously, we want to compete for the Cage Warriors belt and both move on to the UFC. So, no, I don't really see it in terms of gym versus gym. I do think Next Gen are probably the more complete gym. Even obviously we've got Paddy and Mull in the UFC, but even on a domestic level, I think we've certainly got the stronger domestic fighters. If you think of Cage Warriors, we've got Adam Cullen and Nathan Fletcher and myself, and then there's guys who are just on the verge of maybe getting signed this year. Where I can't really do the same so much for the show, for Shaw Martial Arts. There is guys there, but maybe I do think that Next Gen are a few levels above Shaw Martial Arts.
Fair enough. You just mentioned Rhys McKee. When I spoke to you last, you predicted Justin Burlinson would come out on top in that win. What did you make of that title winning performance for Rhys McKee?
I can't say I was too surprised. I think I remember saying this on Facebook and a few other podcasts. I feel like Burlinson had the more complete skill set, but then I said I think the crowd of being in Dublin could possibly spur Rhys on. I thought it was a good fight. I do think Burlinson doesn't use his skill set as wise as he could. He's got a great wrestling game. We saw that at the end of round one. He nearly finished McKee with that handcuff. He's got a great jiu-jitsu game, but he wants to get stuck into this kind of brawling style. And we saw that in his, Contender Series debut. And then we saw that again with Skabinski. It takes a lot of damage, and I don't think he needs to. I know he's not going to be fighting from his Instagram. He's not going to be fighting until midpoint next year. So whether he feels like he's took quite a lot of damage over the course of the last 3 fights, I would agree with that. But Rhys did what he needed to do. Again, when we talk about that fighter athlete, Rhys McKee is certainly a fighter. He's tough, he's durable. Again, I think his skill set is. I'd still rather fight in terms of ease of fights for me. I still think Rhys will be an easier fight than Justin. I really do. I think he marks up very easy. I think he cuts easy. I think Rhys again will walk through 3 punches to land one. And I don't think for his longevity, I don't think that's a good
idea. If you get the win, if and when you get the win over Elliot, is it a title shot next? Do you think that's the right call?
Yeah, I think so. And Ian Dean said about as much last time. Ian Dean's the matchmaker. For anyone who doesn't know, for Cage Warriors, he said one more. Honestly, my thing this year has just been to win 4 fights. I wanted to get my record looking a little bit more tidy. I've had 7 losses. I've got 12 wins at the moment. So I'd like to get to 14-7, really. When I fought James Webb, I was told the winner of the James Webb fight, either me or James, would either go for a Cage Warriors title or would go to the Contender Series. And I think it was the idea of my record wasn't that great, which kind of turned the UFC off, put me on the Contender Series. So the goal has been just to win fights. I say tidy up that record, but I definitely want that welterweight title, and that ticks another box. I think if I won that, and not that I've ever really cared too much about this, but that would kind of cement my legacy as being maybe one of the better UK fighters in terms of Cage Warriors, win ever. Who's not stepped into that international level in terms of the UFC. So that would be nice to kind of tick that box and, like I say, have a little bit of a legacy. I'd be remembered then. But so let's get Oban out of the way. Let's win that. Let's get a finish, and let's see what Cage Warriors, what their idea is after the fight.
What's more important to you, creating that Cage Warriors legacy, or taking that step up onto the international level?
That's a tough one, because it's lovely to have a big, nice, shiny gold belt over your shoulder, but they don't pay the bills. And I'm getting to that kind of stage in my career now where I do want to earn some money. I'm like everybody else. I've got a mortgage to pay. You've got bills and whatnot. Hopefully, we're going to kind of be trying for having a baby this year and whatnot. So it's a tough one. I mean, that's quite a good position to be in. If I was, Cage Warriors belt or the UFC, that'd be a comfy position to be in. But I'd imagine probably the UFC would come over, the Cage Warriors belt. I have won the Cage Warriors belt in a different division. Probably the UFC, but again, winning the Cage Warriors welterweight title would be phenomenal as well.
What would your thoughts on like you said before, taking the route through the Contender Series? You're seeing a lot of those guys getting a lot of push going into the UFC because they've already got that highlight package they can show.
That's right. I mean, we always used to see the Ultimate Fighter as a shortcut to kind of UFC superstar. Taken that over, the Contender Series. One is your name that you've won about the Contender Series. So I would definitely say yes, the Contender Series. Contender Series, and the guys are 25-year-old. They've all got 10-0 records. Even Jack Cartwright, who's going on not next week but the week after, he's 10-0. He's still a young kid. Being a little bit older, I have to really try and bully my way in and say, listen, I want to get myself on the radar. I think fortunately we are seeing older guys getting to UFC now. We've got like Curtis Blades and whatnot. Not Curtis Blades, Curtis who fought Jack Hermansson.
Chris Curtis.
He's 35, 36. We've been seeing guys fighting the early 40s and whatnot. So it's not impossible, but yeah, I'm going to have to really kick that UFC door down, I think. And I think maybe being a double champion in Cage Warriors might tick that box, hopefully.
I'm glad you mentioned Chris Curtis there, because I think it was a few weeks ago you shared an old, well, not an old exchange, less than a year ago I think it was, with him.
Right, yeah.
When he sort of called you out, offered to step in. Tell us a little bit about that interaction you had with Chris.
So there's an American called Kyle Stewart who called me out. He'd won over in Cage Warriors San Diego, and he'd said, like, I want to fight Matt Bonner, and it would have been a cracking fight. And we're quite friendly with each other now, Kyle. He don't fight for Cage Warriors anymore. He had a brief stint on Bellator. But then I remember Curtis came on and he was like, if you won't fight Kyle, I'll fight you. And I was like, I've not said I won't fight Kyle. I will. I've said like 10 times I will fight him. And that was really the extent of it. But honestly, I'm quite motivated that he's gone on and done so well in the UFC. I'm not kind of jealous or anything. I'm quite pleased for him. If he'd won the Jack Hermansson fight, he would be in the top 5 middleweight division. So that shows how quick you can transcend into the UFC. If you're available and your weight's good and you're still training, you take these decisions on these short fights. You can crack on and move up the ladder quite quick.
100%. Did you manage to get to UFC London? I know you sort of mentioned you hoped you might get there to watch it, but
no, but I wish I did. It was kind of, again, you think, oh Christ, this is going to be expensive, and you think the tickets are expensive, and then the hotel's expensive, the train's expensive, and then I remember Paddy coming on the mic and afterwards, and he was like, I probably won't fight in UFC London again for a while now because they want me in Vegas. Crap. I wish I bought tickets off him, because he was offering them in the gym. I wish I'd just done it, and it would have been a good moment. Never been to the UFC, and I should have by now. I've been following the sport for 15 years or so. But yeah, I didn't, but I should have. I kind of regret it to a certain extent. But there's always that kind of thing in the back of your mind as well. Is that I want to go to the UFC when I'm on the UFC. So, but yeah, again, I'm more than pleased for Paddy and Molly for doing what they did, and they kind of stole the show again, didn't they?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Again, a few weeks ago, you also posted on social media about sort of it seemed like a sort of jokingly post, but about a potential Cage Warriors event in Warrington.
Yeah.
I, I mean, that was what, like 2 weeks ago. You posted that now. Does it seem like that's not happening?
No, it won't. That was always a joke.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I've sold about 50 tickets for that fight, and it weren't even real. I can't sell 10 tickets to Bolton, but I can sell 50 tickets to a show that's not on. But that was a bit of fun. But it was more of a when they revealed that schedule, Cage Warriors, because I'd heard strong rumours that it was going to be a Manchester show in September, and I thought great. And then I was watching Cage Wars, the Cage Wars before the UFC on the Friday. And my missus said, "Oh look, they put the calendar up for the rest of the year." I remember looking at the calendar and it was Wales, San Diego, Italy. I thought, oh God's sake, I've gonna have to wait 3-4 months here now. So that's where kind of the Warrington joke came in. But that'd be great. I don't know if there's anywhere in Warrington big enough where they bloody do it, but in terms of like location wise, Warrington is bang in the middle of Liverpool and Manchester, so it would actually be decent. We have got a big rugby stadium there as well, so I don't know, maybe they could do something there, but that would be great. But the chances of that happening is less than likely, I think.
Yeah, it's worth throwing it out there at least.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, one last question then. Matt Bonner versus Oban Elliot. How does this fight end?
I think it probably ends by a TKO or a rear naked choke. I do think he'll break at some point in the fight. I think we've seen this from Oban before, from Big Lack and Fleming. If it doesn't go his way, you just kind of almost see him melt in front of you. He has that kind of desperate first round, works a little bit too hard, shoots in, tries to bully you around, and then you push him back. You actually say, actually, no, you're not going to have this your way. Put the pressure back off him. I think he'll melt a little bit. So yeah, early second, I'm saying that's when Fleming has beat him. I'm not going to go in and rush and look for a big finish or anything like that. I'm going to take my time. And when the opportunity comes to finish, I'll get that finish.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Matt. Best of luck. Any sort of social media or sponsor plugs you want to throw out there? Go for it.
You can check me out on Facebook or Instagram, Matt the Beast Bonner. I have got a Twitter account, but I generally don't really go on it. Thanks to all the sponsors who have supported me. It was a shame I normally get like a big T-shirt printed out, but because the show was, I found out on Tuesday I was fighting, I've not really had the chance to do that. But I will make I'll do a shout out to my sponsors on Instagram and social media as well to thank them, and thanks for inviting me on again.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate. Yeah, best of luck in the upcoming fight.
Buddy, thanks very much. See you soon.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.